Welcome to the Force Unscripted, y'all. It's your boy, Nikita. I have been an avid fan of Star Wars essentially for the majority of my life. I absolutely love reading. You guys can see behind me that there's plenty of Star Wars books, Star Wars paraphernalia, lightsabers out the ass. I've got 26. And so my expertise kind of lie on the Legends timeline. I have watched some of the most of the Disney stuff. Haven't read much of the Disney books, but I do enjoy Star Wars in all forms, no matter how trashy the Disney sequel trilogy is. But that is essentially me. I will probably be focusing more on the Legends timeline in all of my dissertation of the Star Wars content that we'll be talking about essentially. But outside of that, I'm going to introduce you guys to my wonderful co-hosts, starting with my boy Hobbs here in the bottom right. So Hobbs, take it away.
How's it going, everybody? I am Hobbs, Monster Hunter Extraordinaire, usually, but definitely a big fan of Star Wars. As for where my expertise falls, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I dabble in a little bit of this, dabble in a little bit of that. I'm mostly an old school TIE fighter player. And I'm sure we'll have an episode where we get into that, and it'll be very exciting to talk about. Yes. So,
Yes.
Maybe, perhaps.
so let's go on to our other person here.
Is he a person? Is he really a person?
Wow.
I
We're starting out like that.
I do not mean to channel Jeff Goldblum, by the way.
Well, nice to meet everybody. I'm Mac or Astral. Either one works. I've watched Star Wars through pretty much my whole life. I definitely am a big fan of the game.
And there goes his internet. You kind of cut out after game, but go ahead. And then he cuts out again.
What did I say? I pretty much played most of the games, and Old Republic era is definitely my jam. Definitely big my favorites, and yeah, I think that's about it, at least for right now.
At least for right now, while we work on your internet connection. So basically, today's episode is going to be focusing on one of the newer series that Disney has just dropped, which is Andor, and it has been a wild ride. It's been really good. One of my favorite parts of the Star Wars timeline is essentially the formation of the rebellion, mostly post Order 66 kind of things, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the galaxy at once, and it's always an interesting time period to talk about. One thing that I really love that this series focuses on is sort of the normality of these characters that we tend to not necessarily deify, but we hold in a high light because, they're a character from Star Wars. They're infallible to some degree. And like, I absolutely love like the humanization of some of these characters. Like what you see in Andor specifically, and one scene that I really like is Cyril, the corporate sector deputy inspector who loses his job, basically kind of pursuing an end that he should just definitely not be pursuing, and then getting scolded by his mother in her kitchen. And it's a really funny scene to me, because we've all been there where our mom has been, you should have done this. Why didn't you do this? Look at how this turned out exactly like I said. And I think that that's something that's absolutely hilarious in regards to the entire series.
Hilarious is that my mom and I talked about that. She even said, haha, didn't that remind me of you? And I was like, please stop. just please stop. No, that was definitely a mom thing.
And then the other thing that I like is so basically Mon Mothma is a character that I grow to love in Legends. At some point she becomes the chief of state of the New Republic, so she's definitely like this figurehead. And I guess the one thing that was really cool about Andor is that they kind of made me see that she was fallible. Because, just to give you some, background, in Legends, Mon Mothma, as Chief of State, is trying to repair relationships with the Imperial Remnant, which is essentially an empire without an emperor. And this one dude like at a party, throws a drink in her face while she's talking to him, and she contracts this like nanovirus that's like inside of the drink, and she basically ends up on her deathbed and ends up pulling through because of a Mon Calamari Jedi who ends up being Akbar's niece, heals her. But even in the face of all that, she still tries to put on a front like, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm here, and I'm gonna do my job regardless of what's happening. And that's something that I feel like they're moving towards in the Andor series that I really enjoy, because you can still see like, oh, her home life is kind of a mess, you know. She doesn't necessarily trust her partner. Her partner seems to not be on the same page as her. Her daughter is going through the rebellious teenage phase. You know, it's a lot, but you see that like these characters are still human. They're still cool. They're still badass, but they are susceptible to human nature,
as we all are.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting take on Star Wars and something you don't get to see very often.
I enjoy it for one because it shows that like not everybody is, actually as invincible as they seem up here, It shows that that they go through some of the exact same things that happen in real life, and that that's still a very big subject in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You would think that because it's fantasy that they don't go through these things.
I would like to think that in a fantastical world they don't go through those things, but obviously I'm
Right.
wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like
especially for the
no,
size
people.
and scale of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like no, people get depressed. Like we actually saw Obi-Wan depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've liked about these series. I wouldn't consider Obi-Wan a supporting character by any means, but like as far as like the Andor thing is concerned, like Cassian, I never expected when I first watched Rogue One, I never expected to have a series about Cassian, but seeing his story and seeing basically him be introduced to the fledgling rebellion and kind of all the work going behind it is just really cool. It's a seemingly mundane story, but it has so many levels of complexity to it. And that's just something that I really do enjoy about Andor in general. That's kind of been like the whole, well, I don't want to say the whole premise of the show, but it's definitely been like a big aspect, like these are normal everyday people who are just trying to fight an oppressive regime, and they're trying to do it in the way that they know how, or the way that they think is best, because we all know Saw Gerrera's super militant, and then Mon Mothma super like, I'm going to try to do these through my diplomatic processes. And you see that like they don't always get along, they're not always on the same page, and it's really reflective of how real life can be, especially when you're trying to plan something. I mean, like, even thinking about this podcast, trying to get everyone on the same page to get recording, it took a long time. It took a while to get everyone on the same page, everyone thinking the same thing and stuff. And you can see that come through in just so many different things in life and in Andor. Another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about too is just the Empire itself. I don't know what it is about. I mean, me and Hobbs were talking about this earlier. I don't know what it is about Star Wars and empires, but every empire in Star Wars has some degree of racism and or misogyny, and I don't know who in the, or both. Yeah, I don't know.
Definitely both. Yeah.
I don't know who in Lucasfilms or wherever in the Star Wars planning room is like, you know what? If we have an empire, they got to be racist and hate women. I just think it's funny.
It's almost like it's almost like they're supposed to be. It's almost like they turn into space Nazis.
Yeah, I would consider Palpatine's regime space Nazis. That's
yeah,
accurate.
No, that's Palpatine's for sure. That's why I say they turn into like space Nazis, because
I think it very much has to do with just like painting a very clear black and white image of what like the Empire is supposed to be, which is not good.
Yeah, like they're clearly supposed to be the bad guys.
Yeah, and they very much are so.
That always interests me too, because one perspective that you get from the books or at least the Legends books, like I can't vouch for Disney, is the fact that like a large majority of the galaxy did not care that the Empire was who was in charge, because there are multiple accounts of many planets thriving under the Empire, which they talk about in Legends, because in the Imperial Remnant, like these are planets that have chosen to stay under the Empire because the Empire has regulations for a reason. They have a very cutthroat military and navy, you know. They've got the plan and resources to provide for their planets. Now, you may not agree with every law, you may not agree with every regulation, but they do take care of their people. It's just that Star Wars movies and Star Wars series never really show that. Like the Empire, like I'm not trying to defend the Empire. I'm not trying to defend the space Nazis. I promise you. But
Sure?
I'm positive. Because Palpatine is just a galaxy-brained evil bastard trying to rule the entire universe. But
there's a reason why I prefer the Sith Empire.
Yeah, and see, like, the facilities of the Empire are effective. It's just a fact of the matter. They may not be effective in a positive light, but they sure as hell are effective.
I mean, in a positive light or not, like, they are retaining a pretty good amount of order, considering they run the whole galaxy. Like, we see in Andor, like, you have these military, like, militant, like population that isn't necessarily like these devout imperials that you typically would think of, and like hard to really say that they're all bad necessarily, right?
I mean, yeah, that's definitely the case. Like, because you know, like down to it, just thinking about numbers, they're not all bad people. There's in the Legends timeline in the Legacy of the Force series, Luke Skywalker has a confrontation with his son Ben, and Ben basically is saying, you know, you killed people. You killed millions of people on the Death Star. How do you know that they were all bad? And Luke has like this inner turmoil because he's like, you're right. I don't know. They probably weren't all bad, and I can never defend that. But the service of my act was in for the greater good of the galaxy. And you know, when you see it in a light like that, like you start to think like, oh yeah, like, you know, there's obviously got to be some good people in the Empire, just as there's got to be some bad people in the rebellion. It all just depends on, you know, your perspective of the conflict.
Yeah. Like I still remember seeing the whole like I've seen pictures depicting like what the Empire felt when the first Death Star was blown. Like you see the wall that kind of sort of looks like the memorial from Washington D.C., but it's like for the Empire, and you see stormtroopers like looking at it and crying. Yeah, that's basically to the same effect. And nobody really thinks about that either, because it's just like they're the bad guys, you know. But it's just like, what if they weren't all the bad guys? And it's interesting that they kind of sort of they're starting to like bring that into it kind of sort of into fruition. I think through a few of different series that we've seen, I think Mandalorian, somebody defected or something like that. You know, like you had people that were in the Empire and was just like, "What the hell am I doing?" You know?
Yeah. And that's one thing. Like I said, I really do love the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just seeing how the inner workings of the Empire itself are, the bureaucracy at you know, at play at work. And I cannot think of her name. The Deidre. Is it Deidre? Miro? God, their names are so forgettable.
They are.
There's just so many of them. But she's basically the Imperial, and she's trying to basically follow this hidden trail that she sees to try to find this rebel cell that she knows is out there, but she just simply can't prove it. And you see the inner workings of bureaucracy at action. Like, she's trying to access this information, but this other guy who is also in the ISB is like, why are you trying to climb the ladder? You know, you should make sure the ladder is stable before you try to climb it. And he's not worried about her being effective, but instead of going, through to trying to help her, because obviously she is the good of the ISB in heart, he's thinking that she's trying to usurp him or just usurp someone in general so she can move up. And I think that is like the imperial bureaucracy, like to a T at its core right there. And it's just absolutely, it's awesome to see, but it's also again, it shows off just the overall misogyny, specifically in the Empire, of them seeing a woman and she being the only woman in the circle, and how much of a struggle it is for her to simply do her job, because that's what she's doing. She's just trying to do her job. And because of the way the bureaucracy is structured, the way that she is perceived, it seems like she's trying to go after something, some hidden goal, some ulterior motive, when she's just literally doing her job to try to make sure that the empire that she serves is protected, safe, and maintained, And I just think that just always gets me. It's really funny to see.
There's always some character that has to do something by any means necessary, even if they have to do like the dirtiest thing just to ensure the protection of whatever they're working for. That happens quite often especially in Star Wars. My God, on both sides. Okay, it's not just the Empire. It's happened on the Rebels or the Republic side too, where you get some scumbag that's like, I'm doing this for the good of the Republic, and it's like, but yeah, you're like a little bit of a jerk.
Saw Gerrera.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So
he's so militant. He's like, it's blood for blood, eye for eye, fire for fire.
Right. Yeah.
He's very much one track mind, that's for sure.
That is very much true. And it's funny to see, because I consider, like, he's an extremist. And I definitely consider him an extremist. But it's funny because I also consider Mon Mothma an extremist. She comes off as kind of like a centrist. And I feel like they're moving more towards her being a centrist. I don't know if you saw the latest episode, but when she's like discussing it, like her tactics with Tay at the dinner that they're having at her place of residence. I feel like they're moving her more towards centrist, because when you think about Mon Mothma, she is technically an extremist. Like, she wants to go full pacifist. She wants to take the diplomatic means to try to find a solution to all of these problems. And like, it doesn't seem like it's an extreme view, but it is, like the far left compared to Saw Gerrera's far right, where he's like, we've got to attack this base. We've got to steal this payroll. We've got to make sure that they can't, ship this amount of supplies to wherever they want to whatever depot or whatever. And so I just think it's amazing that we get to see the dichotomy of the rebellion, essentially, and not just like the dichotomy of a developed rebellion, because this isn't too far after the end of the Galactic Civil War. It's like it's still fledgling. They haven't even, they're still developing their networks and stuff, and you already see that it's immediately the big players are not all on the same page.
I think jumping off of what you said a little bit earlier in that was like, they're both extremists, but on like the literal two ends of the spectrum. And it's just something that you kind of have to, like, the rebellion is going to go through this phase where they kind of try to figure out the best way to go about that and like work through that. Because like, obviously having Saw Gerrera just do his thing is not necessarily the best, as I'm sure we'll find out later.
I sure hope we do. Now, one thing that I did want to talk about for sure. I just talking about the Imperial payroll heist in Andor. I just have to mention this because it's so funny. Like, I was so happy. I was like, okay, Andor's with this group. They're gonna try to steal this money. They going for that bread. They finna get this bread. And there's two cool black guys, you know, and it's weird. It's because, like, you know, like, for the longest time, Billy D. Williams was, like, the only notable, like, black person in Star Wars. And now you have all these people playing significant roles that are black. And I was like, yeah, like, because the heist is going well, everything's falling in order. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And there was absolutely no Deus Ex Machina for me. The black people still died. They pulled the horror movie trope. I was so sad. I was like, you know, maybe these black people will survive and get to see the fruits of their labor. Nope. Star Wars ripped that rug right from under me.
I 100% called that GTA Star Wars. That was just I was like, this is just a GTA heist in Star Wars, and I'm here for it.
I was so sad. I was actually so sad. I was like, they could have been so much. Also, another small thing in Andor that I really appreciated was, like, they really they really pulled a snitches get stitches move by killing Tim Carlo when he snitched on Andor. Like, he snitched, and then, like, okay, the thing about snitching is, if you're gonna snitch, don't feel bad about it, because that makes it worse. And then he just gets murked. Like, I was like,
dude,
yeah.
like, my boy shot him like he was RoboCop. Like, Jesus Christ! I had to actually rewind, because I was like, what happened? It happened so fast because he was like mid sentence, and then pow! I was like, bro.
It really does show you that, like, jealousy really can be a bitch, though, because, like, he simply did that because he thought Cassian and Bix were doing something behind his back. Like, putting your nose in someone else's business and not knowing what's going on and making assumptions and like, what does assuming do? It makes an ass out of you and me, and he ended up dead because of it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then I sat there and like, shame.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really excited to see where it's going. I actually don't know how many episodes there are left in this season. Do you guys know?
We're in 7 or 8, I think. I think it's either 9 or 12. I think it might be 9, but it might be 12. It's one of those two.
As long as they don't pull a Kenobi and give me 6. Oh, there goes Max Internet. Oh, he's actually just he's just full on roboting right now. It's great. But was there any other plot points or any other stuff about Andor that you guys maybe wanted to mention? I know, like, people were really curious about the Kyber crystal, and I know that Mac was really excited about the reference to the Rakatan Empire, but I guess that was just kind of like a small little Easter egg or whatever for fans of, like, the old Republic and stuff. I don't know if they're actually going to develop that any.
Probably not. I mean, you saw Starkiller's armor.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned. I saw that, and I had to go back and rewind twice, and I was like, okay, Luthen, I see you. I see
hold
you.
On. But then, dude had the stones from the Temple of Doom, and I was like,
wait, for real? Oh, now that I didn't notice.
Yeah, he had, like, it was like on the shelf. You see 3 of them. They're brown, and I was like, "Are those from Temple of Doom? How does that work?"
So does that mean that Indiana Jones exists in the Star Wars universe? Because, like, we know E.T. does, but does that mean that Indiana Jones also does?
I'm not sure, but it was an interesting Easter egg. It was definitely an interesting Easter egg that they threw in there for no reason.
I definitely thought it was cool. Yeah, that's the same. That, you know, honestly, that's how I felt about, like, Starkiller, like the Force Unleashed.
Yeah,
but I was still happy nonetheless. Like, seeing that just made me really happy.
I was like, oh snap, I forgot that existed. Like, it was so like, that was cool. Yeah, that was 100% cool to see, and I totally pulled a Leo when I saw it too. Like, I was just sitting back, and I was like, whoop. Oh man, it was definitely interesting to see that Cassian came from, like, this tribe of I forget what they're called, but I was like, wow, they're, like, really tribal.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they're
I did
tribal
not
like
see
the
that
like
coming.
Ewoks. Neither did I. I was like, whoa, he was in a tribe. So I'd love to see how he transitioned to them. Well, they kind of sort of showed it with him
They're
at
Casa,
one point.
right? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
yeah, something like that. But that was an interesting twist. At least to see like his origin story, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, I actually there were parts of that that I really did appreciate, especially because like what was it? A Republic frigate crashed on the planet,
Yeah, yeah.
and he lost. I guess like the leader of the. See, okay, now that's the part that I'm confused about. Is it essentially like a Children of the Corn cult, like where it's just all kids and no adults?
That's what either that or it was like Lord of the Flies. But like, I mean, I think either way there was no adults. But like, I thought that's what it was.
Was there any other plot points that you wanted to mention?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, at least. Like we did mention the Rakan Empire thing, but yeah, I think that was just kind of like a callback more than any sort of plot point,
So
at
like,
least as it stands right now. So
all right. Oh, I am excited to see where it goes because the one thing I want to know, because I want to know if this is going to be a multi-season series, and if so, where does it stop? And I want to know how they're going to close out this first season too, because I don't know if I don't know if I'd be able to handle it if it's just on a cliffhanger. There's so much up in the wind right now. Like I know I'm sorry if I'm doing any kind of slight spoilers for you guys because I know you guys haven't caught up yet, but Cassian being in jail, kind of cut off from the world, him being hunted by the two people that survived the Imperial heist with him, and it's a lot of stuff at once. And I really I'm usually, when it comes to Star Wars series, I'm able to predict where I think that they're going to go, where I think, this is going to end. And I have absolutely no clue about that right now. So I was wondering if you guys had any assumptions or any ideas of where things might be headed right now.
I mean, I kind of sort of predicted he was going to be in jail. Because
I don't agree
I
with
was
how
like,
they did that, honestly. I really don't.
So
I'll
I'm
have to.
an episode behind you, but I honestly going into it had zero idea of what was gonna happen.
It felt a little
I mean,
haphazard, honestly.
I'd have to check it. I'll have to when I view it. I'll definitely have a better opinion on it, of course. But like, I was just like, when you meet him in Rogue One, you're like, okay, yeah, this dude has had to have gone to jail a couple
Yeah,
of times.
exactly.
Like he's been through the system more than once.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited
It's, it,
to see where it goes. We'll probably do another follow up on the Andor stuff once the season has finished, and kind of get all of our thoughts together on anything. But that's basically all that we have with the story so far. I've absolutely loved all the intricacies, like I've mentioned. The sort of what we kind of see as mundane aspects to these great Star Wars characters' lives, the intricacies of the imperial bureaucracy, that's such a hard word to say, the internal
it's a hard word.
misogyny and stuff, the stuff that we've seen from the different views of these people who are trying to get a coalition together against the Empire, and so it's this series has been nothing but excellent in my opinion. There's obviously there's a couple of discrepancies, but I'm going to walk into it with an open mind because they still got time. It's not the season finale yet, so maybe they can close off some of these holes that I'm seeing. But I it's been an excellent story so far, especially as someone who loved Rogue One. Like, I think of all the movies that Disney has put out, I would put Rogue One essentially near the top. If not my favorite one that they've put out. It was just a great movie. I know Mac disagrees, and we're definitely gonna have an episode about Rogue One. But I
Like
really do love Rogue One.
I agree with you. I just don't think it's better than Empire. But
Yeah, no, Empire is the best. Episode 5
but
supremacy all the way.
but no, I 100% love Star Wars Reach. I mean Rogue One. It seriously, when I watched it, I was like, I was seriously when I was watching it, and it was no way meant to bash it, but I just sat there and I was like, holy crap! I just watched Halo Reach.
Yeah, to an extent, kind of.
To an extent, that was basically Star Wars' Halo Reach.
So I did look it up. There's 12 episodes of Andor, so we still have four more episodes, looks like. Okay. But I do agree, like, especially not being the biggest fan of Rogue One, I was really pleasantly surprised with how it's turned out so far. And I definitely am, like, really, really interested to see how it ends up. Like, I usually am up every night to watch the episode right when it comes out, too. So I'm definitely interested to see how it goes. And if they do end up doing multiple seasons, kind of where they go from there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But if anyone in the chat has any questions in regards to Andor, Star Wars in general, maybe you want to target your question as specific, like if you have a question for Hobbs or you have a question for me, feel free to go ahead and ask. We will leave the floor open for a little bit so you guys can get in whatever Star Wars questions that you may have. But for the most part, that has been the small little first discussion of Andor so far. We will most likely do another episode probably once the season is finished. And we will have our fourth member with us for that. He couldn't make it for this one, but Tiger will be there. And so we'll have a fourth person to kind of go off of. And hopefully Mac gets his terrible internet fixed by then, or at least finds another alternative. Sorry to pick on you, Mac.
It's fine. I'm used to it. We'll figure it out.
So question from Alex Roca TV. Who is the most cake character, Vader or Yoda? It's got to be Vader, man. Anakin was so ripped, like insanely ripped. He had to have them cheeks clapping in the wind. Like there's
definitely
no way
Vader.
Yeah, like maybe like you could technically say that maybe some of the fat on his cheeks got burned off on Mustafar, but Yoda got a flat ass. I just know it. I just know it. I just absolutely know it.
No. See, Vader's mostly metal, whereas Yoda spent the last like 20 years of his life just vibing in Dagobah. Like that dude's gotta be caked up at this point now.
So one thing that's funny. So Disney Canon confirmed that basically Yoda, when Luke comes in Empire, is high because of his Geimer.
Of course he is.
You know, but it's so funny because when I was younger, like, because I saw the originals first, and then I saw the prequels, and I could never understand like why Yoda went from being like this goofball, because he knows who R2 is, and then you go back and you see him in the prequel, and he's just like completely different. Like he's this calm Jedi Grandmaster trying to like hold the galaxy together. And
for
then
real,
all of a sudden, he's just completely different. But I always thought he was just high off that Dagobian Kush, but it was just his Geimer stick. He was just high off Geimer stick.
I want to try both of those.
It's the first time for everything, right? You know,
Dagobian Kush does sound kind of fire. That Dagobian Zaza.
Dagobian Zaza,
yeah, literally.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Yes. So Derp has a question for all of us. He says, if y'all can only get one dark and one light side power, which two will be in your arsenal? So I'll let Mac go first. Mac, what's your choice?
That's tough. Force Crush is definitely one of my favorite abilities of all time. That is just so badass. And then as for light side, that's a really tough one. I probably have to go. I forget what the max level is, but Night Speed, like there's that one is just, and this is just me coming from KOTOR playing those games, but yeah, I think I would have to go with those two, like Night Speed and then Force Crush. Both of those are just so incredibly useful, and Force Crush is so badass.
Okay, those are some good answers. I hadn't even thought about those, honestly. All right, what about you, Hobbs?
That's very, very easy for me. Force Scream, being that I'm a monster hunter, I would definitely channel that. And probably like something simple for light side, like Force Push or something like that.
I feel like Force Push is like neutral, right? Yeah.
Right. I feel like it's more neutral, yeah. Okay, well then if we're going like actual light side, I don't know, maybe like healing.
Yeah, Force Heal is a good one.
Yeah, Force Heal, but like I definitely want to. I would definitely use Force Scream to roar like a Nergigante. So
See, I was for the light side ability, I was thinking about force healing, but like force healing to Jedi is basically the same as like channeling the dark side for the Sith. Like it really does take it out of you. But of all the light side powers, you know what, actually I would take like the lightning absorption, the kind of thing that you see Yoda do in episode 3 versus Palpatine, where he channels the force lightning on his hands. Like I would take that as my light side power. Yeah, essentially. And then as far as my dark side power would go, I would probably take Sith battle meditation, honestly. We see it in Legacy of the Force, and Jason Solo, one of Han and Leia's twins, is able to like essentially take a small force and overwhelm a planet just because he's able to feel how everyone in his armada is feeling and kind of influence them and nudge them. And you know, like one time someone, because I you guys know I play League of Legends, one time someone asked me, unfortunately, exactly, one time someone asked me like, if you could make your own amateur team, like your dream amateur team, what would it be? And I know it sounds egotistical as hell, but like my answer was like, well, if it's me, I would just choose to clone myself 4 times and just have a team of me, because you know we're all thinking the same thing, and you know, it's that same aspect for the Sith battle meditation. You know, if you're all on the same page and you're all gonna trying to do the same thing with the same kind of force behind you, no pun intended, but pun intended, I just think that that's a really cool dark side ability. If not that, then definitely force lightning, because I just want to shock the shit out of people and just no repercussions.
Yeah, like that would be my other, if I was able to choose to, that would be my other one.
Yeah, if I wasn't picking Crush, Force Storm would definitely be mine, but battle meditation's a light and dark side ability, so
no, but I mean specifically Sith battle meditation, like that specific one. Like it's a little bit different, because like at least in the Legends it's different, because Luke can't do it, but like Jason, when he becomes a Sith Lord, can.
So I don't know much about the powers from that era, but like Bastila knows battle meditation, and then in KOTOR 2 you can learn it, and it is a light side ability, but like this is the first time I've heard of the Sith battle meditation though, so
I think they might be slightly different, but I'll have to do a fact check on that and come back to you.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the difference between the two there, but I do know that it is both light and dark then.
And okay, now I want a mod where the Force shout sounds like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
That'd be good. I mean, like, you have the Force, you could. I mean, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi simulates a crate dragon, so what's stopping you from being a T-Rex?
Right.
So Alex Roca TV has another question. What's a Disney canon element, plotline, characters, etc., that you guys actually thought it was really good or interesting? Hobbs, I'll let you open on this one.
Mando was just like it for me. Like I was like, okay, he's a cool ass character. Actually, him and the character that friggin' Apollo Creed plays. And yes, I called him Apollo Creed because that's who he plays in Rocky. But I thought they were awesome. Just a lot of people from Mandalorian I thought were pretty amazing. I want them to redeem Finn so goddamn bad, but that's just a fever dream right now.
Redeem who?
Finn.
Oh, Finn. Okay. How would they even go about redeeming Finn? At this point?
Exactly. That's why I said. That's why I was like. That's why I said it's a fever dream at this point.
What about you, Mac? What's been your favorite Disney canon element?
It's hard to say. Like, I'd probably go with the characters, because there's the one character in Mandalorian played by Bill Burr who he is like the perfect example of what like a redeemed stormtrooper or whatever could have been kind of jumping up what we were talking about with Finn, and then like the Bad Batch is like my favorite Disney one that they've done so far, and all the characters in that are just done really, really well. Like none of the characters feel out of place for the story, and like they don't feel like they do things that would be like uncharacteristic to their own character. So I'd probably have to go with that. The plot on some of them is not the best. Like the plot of Bad Batch is kind of weird, but I do really, really enjoy the show, and I think that a lot of it is based off of just like the characters and the relationship that they have with each other, and like how it all feels genuine to the character within like the realm of the show and Star Wars as a whole.
Is Bad Batch getting another season?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Because I don't know about you guys, but like in my top characters, like in my top 5, Boba Fett is in my top 5, and so getting to see Omega and like how she kind of like, I want to know more about her. Like that has been my favorite part about Bad Batch.
100%. I'm 100% Team Wrecker.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a fan of Wrecker. The fact that Wrecker like smashed somebody's helmet and literally cracked it open is so funny to me. Like,
yeah,
dude just headbutted this poor fucking shock trooper and got his skull cracked.
He is literally the Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie of Star Wars. Like,
no, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I love him for it.
Yeah, it's so good.
But my favorite Disney canon element, if anything, I'd have to say in like and no meme, Vice Admiral Holdo, because
Admiral Hardass
of of all of the sequel trilogy, I honestly enjoy The Last Jedi the most for a lot of reasons, but primarily the cinematography and the scene where Holdo light speeds into the Mega Star Destroyer, sacrificing her life to buy the rebellion time, will always forever live rent-free, not only in my heart but in my soul. Like that, I just think that scene was beautiful, but it was a very admirable sacrifice. It was very well, I thought that it was probably like the best part of the movie. Of course, I didn't really like Leia being able to survive the vacuum of space, but we're not going to talk about that. But
nobody did.
Nobody did. The scene where Holdo goes light speed into the Mega Star Destroyer was absolutely badass, and I will forever stand her for that sole reason.
While we're on the subject of people surviving in the vacuum of space, I hated how they did my man Akbar. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, okay, so he's just dead. Cool.
Akbar is one of my favorite characters in the Legends timeline. So for those of you who don't know, the plot of the New Jedi Order is essentially an extragalactic threat comes and basically sweeps through
the Yuzong Vong, right?
Yeah, the Yuzong Vong. And one of my favorite scenes, because everyone at this point, everyone knows who Akbar is, one of the greatest admirals of the rebellion, just still this overall still cool, like literally served the New Republic until he could not serve anymore. And at this point, when the Yuzong Vong attack, like he is so old that he cannot leave his home pools. Like he has to stay constantly hydrated, constantly in water. He has to be taken care of by one of Leia's old aides named Winter. And it's funny because the New Republic is just struggling versus the Yuzong Vong, and they go like Akbar has got to be like in his like 70s at this point, just really old, he's battered, and they go to him and they're like, this is the situation and this is what we've been doing and this hasn't worked. And Admiral Akbar kind of sits there and goes, okay, he listens to them, and he's like, I know how to beat them. And they're all like, what? He was like, yep, I know how to beat them. And literally, so after that, he's like, I will be a consultant to the New Republic Army and we'll beat the Yuzong Vong. And so basically a message goes out to the entire New Republic fleet, and it's 3 words. It's Akbar is back, and the entire fleet celebrates for 3 days. If that's not clout, that's clout. And to that, he doesn't survive to see his plan come to fruition. Like he passes away like 2 months before they end up beating the Yuzong Vong. But because of his strategy, because of his plan, like he has won another war for the galaxy at bay. Like, I was like, it's just amazing. Whenever I think about that scene or about that period in the Yuzong Vong War, when seeing the words Akbar is back and celebrating for 3 days is just absolutely incredible.
It is. That's cool.
That's good. You love to see that.
Yeah,
seriously,
you love to see it.
All the time.
I don't see any more questions. So it looks like we're probably going to call it there. We don't have a set firm date on when our next episode is going to be, so stay tuned. But we look forward to putting out more episodes, and like I said, next time when we come through, we'll have our fourth member, Mr. Tiger. He is another really cool dude, very avid Star Wars fan. And then I just want to give a small thank you to you two, Hobbs and Mac. It's been a absolutely wonderful experience getting to talk Star Wars with you guys. And I cannot wait to continue to do more as we move forward from here on. But that is it, everyone. We will catch you guys next time. Thank y'all so much for being a wonderful audience. And until the next podcast, may the Force be with you all, and we will all catch you around.